everybody. The time is now 9:40 a.m. Thank you for your patience. I love when we talk and have like sidebar conversations because it just builds community, and I love talking. So I'm happy that you guys all got to mix and mingle, and I hope you are enjoying the refreshments. Again, we have some nice hot coffee and warm, delicious, scrumptious bagels. So please help yourself. Even as the meeting's going on, feel free to just get up and do what you need to do. I hope everyone has signed in. There's a sign-in sheet as you walked in, as well as gotten a copy of the agenda for today. If not, we do have extras right here on the table next to the podium. As well as there's a couple flyers. We have, I know Frank will talk about later, but just these save the dates for the mental health fairs, and we have this wonderful official publication of like this P-CCS newsletter that hopefully many of you guys have gotten in your mail, which I think is so cool to get these. It's nice little updates happening and wonderful things happening in the district. But all that to say, again, the meeting, it's 9:40 a.m. and we will start this parent council meeting on Thursday, April 25th, 2024. Here's my, it's a new gavel, guys. Okay, so that's official. My name is Antoinette Jackson. I am our P-CCS Parent Council President for the district. This is about my 5th year, I believe, on the Parent Council board, although I've been active with Parent Council for many, many years. I have 3 children in the district. My oldest son is Marcel Jackson. He is an 11th grader at Salem High School. I also have an 8th grade daughter, Gabrielle Alley. She's at Liberty Middle School. And I have a 4th grade son, Jonathan Jackson, and he is at Dotson Elementary. So again, you guys are no strangers to me. I am very, very active with not only Parent Council being the president, but PTOs at all my kids' schools. I am our PTSO president at Liberty Middle School and have been for the past 6 years. I also help extensively with Dotson Council at Dotson Elementary. And prior to that, I served on our PTO board at Field Elementary School for 7 years. So it's been I feel like a couple decades in the district doing PTO. I love to serve. I love to see our community flourish in the places where my kids attend, the schools, just be the best that they can be. And the way to do that is to volunteer and be in the schools. So you see what's going on, and you not only see it, but you can help in building it up to be just the great schools that P-CCS is. With that being said, I would love to introduce my amazing board. These ladies are awesome. I text them at 11 and midnight and let them know what's going on and get feedback, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you. I definitely hand-selected each and every one of you to be on this board with me. I love not only our representation and diversity here because it enriches our minds and our thoughts and our schools, but also just you guys' feedback and help. And they not only volunteer here, but they are in the schools with me as well, and they have businesses and things that they run themselves, and we all have kids. So with that being said, I'll start with my vice president to the right of me.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Shay Bailey. I have 3 children in the district, 2 not here, but 2 at the park at Canton High School, and then I have a 7-year-old at Workman. Absolutely love the work that we get to do from a parent lens. I sit on a couple of additional subcommittees that are overseen by the school board and other stakeholders throughout the district. So again, super excited to serve you all and to be here as a parent lens into what's happening and what can happen in our district.
Thank you. Thank you. I am a recent addition to this council, but I have had such fun. There's so much to do and so much to learn. I have recently retired, I want to say, from my corporate world, but I am living in the community, meeting people, and enjoying myself every day. So it's been a ball. Thank you. I do have 2 children. One's in Dotson. She's getting ready to go to Liberty Middle School. She doesn't want to see me. She doesn't want to talk to me. I'm like, okay, sure, but I'll feed you. She's like, yeah, that works, right? And then my little one's in preschool in Gallimore. It's been amazing. Thank you. My name is Sushma. All right.
Hi, my name is Soraya. I have 5 children in the district. I have 1 at Dotson, Yusuf, he is in 4th grade. I have 2 at Liberty. Muhammad is in 6th and Ibrahim is in 8th. and I have 2 at Plymouth. Aisha is in 10th, and Jamila is graduating this year, going to college, so that's exciting for her. Thank you. Or university, I should say. I'm so used to saying college. Yeah, she's going to Dearborn, University of Michigan of Dearborn. So
Wow.
yeah, so very exciting. I love helping as well. I'm involved in all 3 schools as much as I can. Oh my gosh, my son will be starting football. We just went to the meeting at Plymouth next year, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. But I'm so excited actually to be involved in that as well. So yeah, I'm a teacher. I just haven't had a chance to get started on my career yet. So this is a good way for me to continue use that education to the advantage of the community. So thank you.
Okay, hi, my name's Anne Marie Garrity. I'm the corresponding secretary, so I'm the one that sends you all the lovely emails. I have a son in 7th grade at East and a daughter in 5th grade at Gallimore who will be going to East as well next year.
So all the wonderful emails and reminders come from our wonderful Anne Marie. She's very on top of it, and I really appreciate that. With that being said, I do want to give, I guess, homage to Principal Kim Villarosa at Salem High School, where I help and sit on many committees as they ask me to there as well. And I have to talk about Coach Kyle Kearns because my son is on the Salem soccer team. You know, it's kind of a big deal. And so I just want to make homage to that as well. And my daughter just made prom at Salem because she's going to be an incoming freshman. So that's super cool too. And I guess I should mention my husband of 19 years. I thank God for him and all he does so I can help and be in the community to the extent that I am. So, Brandon, I hope you're at work. With that being said, we are going to do our roll call for parent council representatives or PTO leaders from each P-CCS school here in our district. We will... with that, if you are here from your school, even if you're not like technically the representative, if you're here from your school, just say hi so we can mark you down as present. Okay, we'll have Shay Bailey go ahead with that.
Alrighty, before I get started too, I want to make sure I'm on point with this. I believe our Salem principal is nominated as Principal of the Year for the state of Michigan, so that's huge. Yeah, I was going to say, I read that. So that's absolutely amazing. So if you see her in the hallways at Salem, give her a shout. That's, to do the work that these principals do and to be acknowledged for it is huge. So she is nominated for that currently. Alrighty, with the schools, do we have anyone from Allen Early Learning Academy? Bentley? Byrd Elementary? Dotson?
Yes.
Erickson? Farron? Field? Gallimore?
Yes.
Yay, Gallimore! Hoban?
Here.
Awesome. Hausling? Am I saying that correctly? Holstein. No? Okay. I don't think I've ever said that school name the entire time I've been in the district. It's Bister? Perfect. Miller? Smith? Tonda? Workman? Amir? Alrighty. To the middle schools, Discovery?
Here.
Perfect. East? Awesome. Liberty?
Present.
Awesome. Pioneer? Yes, Pioneer?
Oh,
No,
sorry,
okay. West? Okay, awesome. Canton? Plymouth High? Awesome. Salem?
Present.
Starkweather? Do we have anyone with children in Virtual Academy K through 8 and Virtual Academy High School? Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you, VP Shay. I also just want to thank you guys for being here. Again, you could be anywhere, but you decided to take the time to be here at a parent council meeting. So I thank you for your time and support. At this time, I wanted to talk about our parent council board positions. We are asking for nominations for next school year. Although I love all of you guys and I love sitting as president, I am so extraordinarily busy. It might be time for me to maybe step a little back with my son being a senior next year, and my daughter is going to be a freshman, and all the things that they have going on. We have a real estate company, my husband and I. We have quite a bit going on. But so that position would be open. We have president potentially, vice president, corresponding secretary, recording secretary, or membership coordinator. If any of you are interested in those positions, or maybe you know somebody who may be interested in being nominated for any of these positions, please email us at parentcouncil@pccsk12.com. We would love to have you. It's a fun board. Again, we do like summer parties and different things to plan for the year. And again, anything that you can do to enrich this position, we would just love to have. Hopefully we can do elections next month, potentially. Just FYI, we are trying to plan a 2020 bond, the field trip that we do every year. We go to the different sites and we look at some of the things that the constructions and different things the money was put towards. We want to see where have we gone, how does it look now, what has happened, and then we also eat at the Rock Cafe afterwards, which is really cool. So that is something that I know Frank and I and Carly will get together to see when that date will be, and hopefully it will be in May before the Rock Cafe closes and the kids go off for the end of the year. At this time, again, I know we have the agenda and I know we have district updates. If you guys will bear with me, we may go a little out of order because that's just what we do. We all learn to be moldable and adaptable. And at this time, if she is ready, we will have our own Dr. April Crazarano. She is our principal at Dotson Elementary School. And I just want to say, I know we're so excited.
There's a lot of dolphins up there.
I know, it's a lot of us. I am so thankful for Dr. Q. I actually texted her yesterday and was like, okay, I need a favor. Can you get here in the morning? And without hesitation, she's like, absolutely. So that's just the type of principal that she is. I've had the pleasure of, she's been principal for Jonathan for the past, I think, 3-4 years now, and we have so many wonderful things happening at Dotson, and I've had a great experience there thus far. But I could go on and on about what she is and what she's done at the school, and she's been to district forever.
That is true.
But I will let her go ahead and come in your own way and present to Parent Council. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for the honor to come. I have lots of dolphins up here and a dolphin mom back here. So we are the Dotson Dolphins. I do want to start, and thank you so much, Antoinette, but truly it was just a lovely feeling to be able to walk into this room. This team is the foundation. And we're in the buildings and we're out there and we're doing the work but it's not always that we get over here and see. I want to just harness your energy and take with a bagel, but I am going to take it back. And it's just, so thank you. It's so nice to be able to see that positive piece and coming in and just the hugs and the excitement. So Antoinette, you had asked me just to maybe go over a couple things, some of the great things happening. And yes, I've been here a long time, since the early 2000s, so I've seen just an amazing run through the district. And I too have an 8th grader at Liberty. We will be doing the DC field trip that I'm excited, but I'm actually a little nervous as a mom, not the principal going, so I get to wear that hat, so that'll be great. One of the things I wanted to share that's very unique about our building is we have 4 ASD Autism Center-based classrooms for Wayne County. And so that means we have about 27 students right now in that program. And so the one thing we've worked very hard, and it's grown from 2 classrooms to 4 classrooms over the years, and we've had that for quite some time. I think when our TAG program moved to Gallimore quite a few years ago, I don't know if you'll remember, it sounds like you've had kids through there. I can't remember the year exactly, but we had brought in the programming. This week was our Autism Acceptance Week. So the students all week, I think Dr. Merritt, you were there, it was like, oh wait, no, they're supposed to have on these crazy hats. They're supposed to have on. So this week, what we did was to celebrate acceptance in our building had different theme days. So we had Magnificent Mind Monday. So they were able to wear a fancy hat or something that highlighted them personally and celebrated their own uniqueness. And it was so cool to walk up to some of our students and be like, you have a goofy hat on, tell me about Disney. That's a Disney trip, So all those pieces, ski ski hats, Tigers hat. Me and my dad go to the game all the time. Like, it was just a really neat piece. We had Neurodiversity Tuesday where they got to wear rainbowed and tie-dyed clothes. And then yesterday was interesting. What's your passion day? It was fun. There was a few Disney princesses, there was some gymnastics outfits, there was some soccer outfits, and it was just a really great conversation to talk about the differences and where your passion is at and what's something that maybe you had. Today is Acceptance Day, so we're just wearing red and gold. And then Sensory Friendly Friday. If you are in Dodson Friday, I bet there'll be a lot of pajamas and sweatpants. So lots of slipper kids. Can we wear the slippers? So we have also have our student leadership team that pushes into our program, and they work with them. Like, we have these Smensel sales. I don't know if you're lucky enough to enjoy a pencil that smells. Yeah, I think we gave Dr. Merritt one when she was there. All the important documents need signed with black cherry sparkle. So, and so they help pack the bags, work with our students. So it's great. So that leads into some of our awesome spring activities. We do a celebration of learning at Dodson. We all have the opportunity to do carnivals and all these different things. So we wanted to make it related to curriculum. So we do a celebration of learning. I know you guys are like, we know, we do. But we're changing it a little this year. We're super excited. So to incorporate our differences in our entire community, on the celebration of learning during the day, it's all student focused. So we have the students come in. We are having the silent disco. I don't know if you've seen this yet. You get these headphones, and they have different colors, and so you put them on and you adjust your own music, and then you go up to the person if they have the red light showing and they're listening to the same song, and if they have the green light showing, you can walk up and dance with them. So the students get to do the silent disco. And then they go back to the classrooms and go through their portfolios, and they're all given what we say blue ribbon work. So they get to choose the piece of work that's important to them. They put their ribbon on it, and then we are showcasing it in the hallway for a gallery walk, because that evening we have some food trucks. We have DJ Kurt, who did our Halloween bash, and he's outside. I know, he's so good. He's got kids there too. And our book fair, and we'll have all that going on in the hallway. Lots of donations from our local community for our ice creams and various little samples there. So we're going to do that along with our typical end of the year activities. But I just really wanted to highlight how amazing this has been and how we continue to grow. Yesterday I had a parent of a student who has autism offered to buy t-shirts for the students all next year so that all students could use them and have them on Friday when we do this. And she said, you're like the only school, and I'm like, this is awesome. So of course, like I said, when I came in, your energy, I just want to take it back, and I'm like, okay, what are we doing now? What else are we adding? We got food trucks, we got a DJ, what else are we adding, right? So so those are some of the things we're doing. We're of course highlighting our fifth graders and various other leadership things, but really trying to just be present in the moment, because as I'm hearing, it's going to be a senior year next year for you, and just taking in the excitement. Today on the principal strand, there was just a lot of excitement and saying, have a great day, enjoy the sunshine, and just my favorite part of the day, if you just need to pick me up, go to recess and just sit. Oh, the laughter, the run. You were there on Tuesday. They're happy. They even got a little extra recess out of Dr. Merritt when she was there. She is really popular right now, but fourth grade likes her. So I hope that is what you were looking for me to share, and I'm certainly here for questions. I can do my best to represent any other elementary school along with Dr. Lilly if there's any questions.
Hi, a great presentation.
Thanks.
Like, awesome to find out what's going on at Dodson. I do have a question in regards to the autism program and the classes. You said that you guys have grown to 4 classrooms, and it's Wayne County. So is this specific to the district? Are students, is it sort of like a school of choice situation where a parent can ask that their students specifically be placed at Dodson, and is it open to outside of the district students?
So the program placement is done by individual student IEPs. So it would be based on the needs, and then they take a look, the special education department, please correct me if I'm wrong, they work together to put students that have similar needs, students of similar ages. Like if we have a couple, I have a classroom that's it's kindergarten, first grade blend. I have a 4th, 5th grade classroom. So we really try and keep the kindergarten and the 5th grade, in different classrooms. And then we're able to focus a little bit more on curricular things, more age appropriate, student learning and peer-to-peer interactions for that. So, but it is a county-based program, so we work within Wayne County to look at placement of our students.
So with that, in terms of
Yeah.
the county-based, so it's almost regionalized in terms of if there's a district that's close to us and maybe they have one student whose IEP would have them in a center-based program, that student may come to our program. In terms of the ratio of students versus staff, the classrooms are built based on resident students first, and then trying to service the needs within the county. So they have various county-based programs throughout Wayne County.
Wow, that's pretty remarkable. I have friends who are actively just looking for solutions for their children, and they're not in Wayne County. But it's just interesting that we have that here, and we're sort of the home, if you will, for that. So that's pretty awesome.
What is the capacity of each class?
So each classroom is, the capacity is 8 students, and based on, again, the individual needs of the students, we look at the adult support that we push into the classroom. So we're pretty close to full. I think we have just 1 seat right now. But of course, my 5th graders are moving up, so I think I have 5. So a really big crew going up. And it's very neat for me because I get to go to Liberty as their feeder school, and it's so neat to see them in the hallway because I have them when they're little and they need a lot of support. I mean, sometimes we help with toileting needs, and to see them in 8th grade just walking the hallways, king of the world, on their own, I don't need you, that type of stuff. So that piece is really fun to be able to see that up at Liberty.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to add a little bit more about the silent disco that you mentioned,
Yes.
if you don't mind. So I don't know if you've all been to a silent disco. So essentially everybody gets a headphone, and we have an opportunity to broadcast 5 channels. So we intend to do one very popular pop music that most people know, but culturally appropriate, right? Because there are a lot of kids that have moved here from different countries. Their music of fun is different compared to other kids. So each of the channels is going to play themed music. And then there's going to be a white noise channel, which is for kids that don't want any music. So the idea is, it came from my personal experience where my 1.5-year-old, 2-year-old son didn't want to wear headphones because it would separate him from other kids. When I heard about the silent disco, I was like, this is inclusive because it essentially forces everybody to put headphones on, and the kids that need to put headphones on don't feel like they're different, right? We are changing ourselves to be them. So I'm excited for that event.
We had brought in last year, it was called Blue Hands United, and it was it was a great program. We were unable to get them in this year. We're going to work again next year. Similar type situation where students got to go around to different centers, and like the one center, they had on kind of the big thick gloves. So, and they would give them a shirt to button and say, now try and button that shirt up. Right? Like, how does that feel different? What does it feel like? They have clothes that actually were kind of lined in sandpaper, so the students would put them on and be like, oh, so they had an opportunity to visit each center, and that was excellent. You got to be fast to get them, so we're going to be faster next year. But we have had them out once, and we definitely want to do it again. I think I just looked behind me and said to Katie that students are so kind, and I said I'm pretty sure my 8th grader is kinder than we ever were when we went through high school. Very much accepting, taking in others. It's amazing to watch sometimes, and we don't realize all these little things we do, like the silent disco, in having a week where we can celebrate differences really changes them when they get older.
No, to the point where, so English is not my native language. So I tend to say things that I've heard my parents say. And my daughter, she's so quick to say, Mom, no, that's not okay, right? And she's in 5th grade. I mean, I'm like, I have to constantly be corrected by a 5th grader. I'm willing to listen, right? Because she's like, that is not okay, those words are not okay to put out there, right? So that kindness flows through, let me tell you. You're impacting the families as well.
Excellent.
That's awesome. Do we have any more questions for Dr. Quazarana? Oh, in the back.
Quick question. Are there ASD classrooms in other schools in the district?
Yes. There are, I believe, currently in 2 or 3, Dr. Lilly? Tonda, Dodson, Gallimore, and Farrand.
Okay. But you have 4?
Yes, it varies, again, based on proximity,
Okay.
and, because I'm not very close, so I think, you know, we kind of go based on need
Okay.
in area.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. With that being said, we thank you so much. I do want to just add that we have concerts coming up at Dodson, and
Yes.
4th grade concerts, as well as our 4th grade class. We went to the 36th District Court just last week and got to see the judges and attorneys there. And we're actually going to the Michigan, Philharmonic concert at Salem.
Yes.
So that's really cool too. So again, we have wonderful things. Thank you so much for coming and your
Thank you for
presence.
squeezing me in.
Oh no, thank you. Anytime. Can we give her a hand? At this time, I want to do some acknowledgments. We have our own Katie Illijic. She's here. She is our Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Oh. Okay, well, I try to add a little sauce. If you'd like to come up and just say hi and just kind of introduce yourself, we appreciate you coming and supporting Parent Council.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I don't want to have my back to all of you. As Ms. Jackson said, I am the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here in the district. So I work with all of our building teams, mostly doing staff support and staff professional development around topics related to DEI so that we can better serve our students and our families. I'm also a parent in the district. I have a 2nd grader at Dodson, and my son will be in Young Lives at Dodson next year. So happy to be part of the community and help, and I have a meeting downstairs that started 7 minutes ago, but I just wanted to say hi and answer any questions if anyone has any.
So you don't have to go back to your meeting? Can we just
Yeah, that's fine.
Is this a newly created position?
So Dr. Lilly held the position before me for 4 years. I started as a climate and culture specialist under her last year. And when she moved into the executive director of elementary role last year, I got this position in August. So.
Well, congratulations. Thank you for your service before this. It's obviously showing results, so thank you very much. So what does the support to staff look like, and how do you build programs?
Yeah. So each of our schools has a building level equity team that has anywhere from, I think our smallest one has 3 members and our largest one has close to 10 at this point. And every month we meet in cohorts. So Dr. Q was mentioning meeting with feeder schools. The elementary feeder schools meet with their middle school that they feed to, and then all of our high schools are a cohort. So it's the 3 at the park, and Starkweather meets with them as well. And we do professional learning on different topics. I try to be as responsive as I can to what the schools are asking for. So last year we covered identity, bias, microaggressions, gender inclusion. This year we talked about how to take that work back to staff. So what it means to be a leader for equity, how we respond when we encounter resistance. I'm blanking right now on the other topics we've done this year, but we've done a lot. We did power and privilege this year and looked at how that impacts our classrooms. And then the expectation is that that work is being brought back to the staff in some way that works for the school by the building level equity team, so that all of our staff are getting this professional learning related to these topics.
Okay, sorry, this is not specific to the staff, but my question is, and this is, I'm sorry, I'm going to relate an incident and, explain what I'm saying. So my daughter they have special safeties, I think that they're called.
Yeah.
So every month they get to do different things, right? But so they had to pick someone who could announce on this school mic system. So she said they were picking out of a cup, and 10 kids before her didn't want to speak in front of the mic. Like by 5th grade, if kids are not willing to speak in front of a mic, that's a problem. And I don't know if that's something that we can have addressed through your program, but it's concerning to me because they need to be confident that it's the kids they grew up with, right? Like why should they be afraid of talking in front of the mic? And that scared me. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I would want to talk with, I would want to know first of all if they were all in the same class or who their teachers had been, and then talk with the kids and know what was making them afraid, and then absolutely could work with the teachers to think about ways that we can get our students more opportunities to speak in front of their peers so that they do feel more comfortable getting in front of larger crowds.
yeah, and I think because you guys are doing such great work, I'm pushing down a little bit more for you.
That's okay.
There is the obvious inclusion requirements, but then there is the mental health inclusion requirements. And I'm afraid that we're leaving a big segment of people behind if we don't say it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
You can't make mistakes when you go on TV.
Yeah.
Now is the chance to make the mistakes, right?
Yes,
thank you.
Absolutely. You're reminding me that one of the topics we covered this year was growth mindset and how we can keep encouraging our students and our staff that it's okay to take risks and make mistakes as long as we're all growing together.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
I actually have
Yeah.
a quick question. Well, kind of quick. So I'm wondering. So like I have like a master's degree in like teaching, so I am a teacher. So in like our like trainings, like we obviously had like a lot of coursework on like culturally responsive like teaching and learning like through like Michigan State. So my question is when we as a district like implement this as like a district initiative, like where did you guys see the shortfall of our teachers? Like I feel like I was definitely prepared and trained in all of these things like coming as like a teacher in my education. So where did you guys find like the necessity for it to then be at our district level? Like where was the shortfall?
So I wasn't here at the creation of the department, but I can tell you the way that the department makes decisions about where we're going to focus is from student and staff feedback. So we use the surveys that we send out to families, to students, to staff to see where those kind of gaps and opportunities are to help improve what we're doing in our schools so that we can improve how our staff are responsive for our students.
There's a second channel of feedback that we're asking for. Does that make sense?
I think I wouldn't see it as much as a gap as when we think about our dynamic plan and where our focus is for our district, the sense of belonging for all students, for them to be safe and included is one of really the principles of that plan. And so as we listen to feedback, how students are showing up within schools, sometimes behavioral issues, how can we really work to ensure that everyone knows that they are included and valued in here, and that's so different among schools, among different students. And so that's why that tailored approach is really, when you talk about that position, is to really help build the structure and the framework out such that each building has their own team, because it's not a one-size-fits-all, it truly is individualized, so that that work can be embedded in everything that we do. So that's kind of the idea, to get the structure and the framework from the position and department so that we can grow tentacles through the district and individual needs can be addressed in that manner.
And the overarching documents that drive my department's work are the dynamic plan and then our educational and racial equity policy that was set by the Board of Education in I think 2020 and has I think 7 guiding principles that the board has determined are the principles for the district. So working toward making sure that we're meeting those principles as well.
I would say in addition to that, when you look at that disaggregated data, and when you think about, so, you know, me as a former building principal, assistant principal in the district, so every building has also a comprehensive needs assessment that they do every year. And so literally you're looking at every aspect of your building, and you're able to then identify where their additional supports are needed. And so over the years, teachers have said, you know, data has said, whether it's teachers' data, perceptual data from families, as Dr. Merritt shared, and student data, to say these are the things that we want to focus on. And so once we began to see trends across the way, we were saying, okay, this is a laser focus. We then coupled the dynamic plan once the position was already created before the dynamic plan came into play, but this work goes back for years now when we were looking at our data to see, well, how do we best meet the needs of all of our students?
I get it. I just like look at it as I'm like, if we kind of were trained to do these, like, how come they weren't showing up enough in like the passes to then have to create this department? Does that make, I don't know.
Yes, your question makes sense, and I'm
Okay.
so glad to hear that you got those classes at Michigan State. I will say for myself, when I went through teacher education program years ago, I didn't get a lot of classes like that, and I think teachers who have been around for a while maybe didn't get all of that great learning that I'm so glad to hear schools of education are doing now.
Okay.
I'll say too, even just with especially my youngest daughter at Workman, there are nuanced things that come up that are coming directly from like current events.
Yeah.
And I've been pleasantly surprised at how it's been handled at the classroom level. You know, not something, you know, typically these things, it'll bubble up and you know, her teacher has been very confident in approaching it and, you know, communicating with the parents. Really at the classroom level, I'm sure the principal and everyone's looped in, but I can see that there is direct work happening based on our current social climate and what, you know, kids are bringing into the classroom, and in many cases it's very innocent, right? Like they're bringing it into the classroom with no ill intent, but there is, I'm seeing a great response to that.
Good, and that's what we want. We want people to be comfortable having those conversations.
And I do want to add, I have seen the more recent graduate teachers coming with the skill set that you were explaining. Like my son's teacher is, I want to say she's 2 years into the system, and she knew everything what you're talking about, right? And I was like, and the amount of paperwork that they have to do to make it work in the district is, I mean, sorry, I don't mean that as a district, but it's just, you know, it requires it, but it's a tremendous upskilling that they have to do, right? So, but the skills are more recently taught, like I think you mentioned. So thank you.
Yeah, and you guys meet monthly, and I think you go to the schools too, and all the schools and the administrators and principals, you guys meet as well, I believe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I meet with each of so we have 6 cohorts, and we each meet monthly.
That's it, the cohorts, yeah. That's good. Do we have any more questions for our DEI director, Katie? I would want to say, I remember I first met you at our annual diversity luncheon
My second day on
and that's yeah, I was at St. John's Resort. It was unpacking unconscious bias. I was invited by Dr. Lilly, and Dr. Merritt was there, and we had our table. Frank was there as well. So yeah, just to see you then and see you now. Now you're in this role as the director. Congratulations to you, and thank you so much for taking this time to be here with us.
Thank you for having me, and thanks Dr. Merritt and Dr. Lilly for the assists on those questions.
Hope you make your meeting. Sorry. Thank you. All right. At this time, I also want to acknowledge someone very, 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 very dear to my heart, and she already knows it. She is family. She had all my babies, from Marcel to Gabrielle to Jonathan. We have Dr. Denise Lilly in the house. Not only was she the past Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, now she sits as, I say, Executive Director of Elementary Education. And she is here at the board office, and I would just like her to kind of come in her own way, because Dr. Lilly and I, we've been together for a decade now, so with PTO at Field Elementary. And thank you for coming and supporting, as always.
Thank you all for having me, and I tend to not like the microphone because I don't like to speak in public, but I will, but you know, again, I don't necessarily like to. Thank you all for this wonderful opportunity. I just have to say, I cannot believe that Mr. President is in the 11th grade.
Yeah.
I feel exceptionally old right now. This is my first year in this space as Executive Director of Elementary Education. As has already been shared, I served as the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for 4 years. I served as principal of Field Elementary School for 8 years. And then my first position in the district was assistant principal at Central Middle School for 3 years. So now this is year 16 that I have we're coming up on. So I've had a wonderful opportunity to be at multiple levels. Prior to coming to the district, I also served as high school. So I've actually had the wonderful opportunity to be K-12 in different spaces. This has been a phenomenal year, a busy year, I will say that. I am excited for what's to come as we are drawing near to the end of the school year. So many wonderful things happening. I can speak across the district, right? Very specifically around elementary education. So many great opportunities for our students. Many of you are aware of the curriculum changes that we've had over the last few years. Looking at it from a holistic perspective, looking at the academic, behavior, and social emotional wellness, including mental health for our students and our staff. So it's been a lot of work, but we are mindful that it's the great work and the work that's necessary for our students to be prepared as they go on to the next level. So I welcome any questions you may have. I do have another meeting at a school, but I wanted to make sure that I spend some time here today. So.
Well, thank you. It's such a pleasure to meet you. I heard from Katie that there was an Office of Climate and Culture. Is that part of your team?
So she was a climate and culture specialist, which was a part of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department, which sits in Human Resources and the Teaching and Learning Department.
So does it still exist, that position?
At this juncture, those positions they're not filled at this moment. When she took the position, we had a colleague who was no longer with the district that served in that capacity, and so right now she's doing the work with the support of all the levels.
Okay, but it is an active campaign, or what I'm trying to get at is, so the other cause close to my heart is sustainability, and as a florist, I find it, even working with flowers, I have to use plastic and things like that, right? Like it starts at that level. But I think as a school district, if we can teach our young ones, sustainability, I think there's going to be some merit to it as we get growing as a community. With this, like we're probably the biggest community outside of Detroit, and more people want to move here all the time. So I'm happy to meet with someone, contribute my time. I don't know what it takes, but I think that there is opportunity for that.
Absolutely.
Even in terms of teaching the kids how to grow stuff. I mean, they may kill a lot of plants before they grow, but we can try. But I think there is opportunity for that, because some of the skills that they can take back, even at an elementary level, are going to be with them forever, right? So I think there's some merit in that.
Absolutely. And so what you will see again as we talk about our curriculum and various levels of work, that is to ensure the sustainability. So regardless of whether a person's in a position or there's someone that leaves or what have you, we want to make sure that that work continues. And so again, our fundamental structures, when we look at our MyKIP plans, our dynamic plan, all of our core pieces of the work, we are making sure that everything continues to show up. So whether it's diversity, equity, inclusion in our curriculum, and looking at it from a variety of different perspectives, making sure when we talk about, again, the sense of belonging, whether it's not students feel represented in buildings, and just actually able to have a voice. Those are things that, again, I would say when I was the principal at Field, I may not be here forever, but the work will continue whether I'm here or not. And so, again, making sure that we are equipping our colleagues to continue their work regardless of who may be in certain spots, because that's what's going to be integral to our students being successful.
Thank you.
You always said that. That was something she always said, even now with Miss Letitia Thomas as principal. She said the work has to continue even if I'm not here. And it has. So, any other questions for Dr. Lilly? Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Lilly. Oh, well, we have one more.
Hello,
Go ahead.
how are you?
So something that I've noticed that has come up at a lot of elementary buildings is the field trip process for teachers and buildings. And what I've noticed is that while I know field trips are mostly parent funded or different levels of which schools want to pay or not, but I noticed there is a great inconsistency among schools going on these trips that are aligned with curriculum and help with learning. And I was just wondering if in your department or who would be the right people to contact to make that process smoother. In my mind, I envision so we have a lot of schools that go to Greenfield Village or Henry Ford or to the library, and then each individual teacher has to then submit this plan or approval process, when really all of these classes are already going to these field trips. Why are we going through this whole paperwork and red tape for something that we already know helps with learning? My suggestion would be that the school would have, okay, first grade, here is a set of approved field trips, schedule like when you want to go. Like we know that this aligns with like this science content standard, this aligns with this learning standard, and like help like cut through that red tape and like the time that it takes. Like a teacher shouldn't be spending like hours like going through this like process or then get it like sent back like, oh, denied, like we need a different standard. Like it just seems frivolous when there's opportunities that we know other schools are, they've already like gone at it before. Like why continue this like cycle of like a time suck for something that shouldn't be?
So I think I
Seems
heard you
kind of
say two different
ridiculous.
things. So
Yeah.
I'm going to address the first. And so one of the things that we've worked on over the years is ensuring that opportunities are in all of our buildings so that students do have the opportunities to have the field trips. So what I initially thought I heard you say is that some buildings have them, some buildings may not. And so I know when I was in the seat as principal, that was something that we began to work on, looking to make sure that students are not missing out on opportunities just depending on what building they're in. So that is something that has been streamlined that we continue to look at collectively as a team. So if you have questions about that, definitely feel free to reach out to me about those things. As it pertains to the paperwork, and sometimes it can be a bit cumbersome, so I understand that, but there are various things that we must do. We have to ensure that there are, structures in place, systems in place to protect our students and make sure that they're safe. So while it may seem cumbersome on some ends, because we recognize that there are other places, so we're not necessarily vetting per se the locations of the field trips because we know that those are things that we do on a consistent basis. But there are some structural pieces just around safety and security that we have to ensure are done every step of the way. And so there may be times when there may be a perception that is a bit, frivolous by nature, but those things are done to ensure the safety of our students and staff.
I get that, but it's like, why then do you, like, so in one building recently there's 2 classes, they're each going on the same field trip, and they submitted it within like minutes, like the same prep period, and like one was already done and like approved, and the other is like still waiting. Like I just feel like if it's, you already like know, like if it's like, okay, like Plymouth Library, like the Plymouth schools, I don't know, Canton schools, sorry, that go to it.
They do.
Like, so then we're submitting like the same paper, like these buildings are each spending time submitting the same paperwork for the same trip that you know is going to get approved. So like, why is it that everyone would have to spend, like, we're looking at now like between the Plymouth maybe 3 schools close by, that's like maybe 3 hours of like work that really could have been consolidated because it's the same process for the same trip. Does that, do you know what I mean? It's like you're doing the same
but there are other
thing.
factors that you have to consider as you're filling out the paperwork. And so there are different pieces that each teacher has to make sure that they're adhering to in order to, again, make sure that our students and our staff are safe. Whether it's chaperones, whether it's buses, what have you, there are very specific things that we are required to complete to make sure that our students are protected. So there are some things that logistically, yes, it may seem a bit cumbersome at times, but in order to ensure that our students and staff are safe and that we have all the protocols and process in place, we have to follow that. And we do try to make sure that the turnaround time is not someone just sitting and waiting. Sometimes, again, I say, most of the time it's within 24 to 48 hours that things are pushed through. There may be times when there are delays for a variety of different reasons, but as much as possible, we have to, again, make sure, and again, not everyone will like that, but if we want to make sure our students and staff are safe, we have to follow the protocol.
Yeah, I do understand like to the level of like chaperones and transportation, but I think just in the level of like, this is a field trip that we know aligns with this, like I feel like some of the process like could be like made simpler for teachers or just offering some consistency. Like there was a building I was in, they asked, and like none of the kids had ever been to the Howell Nature Center. And I was like, oh, like none of you have been there? Where like other schools like go there like every year.
And so those are things that we continue to look at when we talk about equitable, right? We're making sure we're having those conversations. Are there financial barriers they would prohibit? Are there other things that the school may be doing instead of going to the nature center? So there are a variety of different conversations that you may not be privy to. That may be some of the reasons behind it. But we want to make sure, that's been a conversation for 10 plus years of making sure that we're not giving students the opportunities and resources to have the same experiences.
Okay, but I'm just saying like it's not like happening. Like buildings are not getting these
Those are
experiences.
conversations,
So,
so I
like,
appreciate that because those are conversations that we continue to have. That
Okay.
has not been lifted in the space for me because again, I'm looking at the field trip. So thank you for that. We will continue to have those conversations.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I love your dress.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lilly. We'll give her a hand. At this time, we will have our own Superintendent of Schools of all Plymouth Canton Community Schools, Dr. Monica Merritt, who is not only our superintendent and was superintendent of the year last year, which is awesome and super huge out of all of Michigan. She is also a dear friend of mine. I love her and her family. Her husband and my husband are fraternity brothers as well. So we would like you to come in your own way to give us district updates. And again, if you guys have questions, we can ask them at the end. And again, just thank you again for being here and for coming and giving us your time, because I know it's precious.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. And I always start off by saying I like to speak less and listen more, but then I end up talking for 20 minutes. So I still have that goal to try to speak less and listen more, but just to provide some updates as we're in the fourth quarter of the school year. Can't believe that it's gone so quickly. Big thing that I think that we always want to talk about is our bond and where we are. You heard that. We're about halfway through the bond. Which is an exciting time for P-CCS. We know we went out in 2020 to say these are our needs and how can we accomplish those needs. Exciting around the community, you're seeing the third stadium in progress right now, MPCEP. Want to be clear because I know that there's some confusion around that. That is not a stadium only for one school. The idea when we went through that bond is that we have 3 comprehensive high schools. We lost some with when we sold Central Middle School, we lost some facilities for our middle school students as well. So when we kind of had that vision, we want to get away from a Canton, Plymouth, Salem, and really look at, we'll probably name them like north, east, west kind of stadiums, but also have access for the middle schools. That really is a design so we can have tracks and things along those lines. So that is in process right now, and I think it's something we're really excited about. The natatorium, also having the third high school having a pool. We lost that pool with Central Middle School, and so now that is underway.
Where is Central Middle School?
Central Middle School is downtown Plymouth. It's now PARC Park. So we sold that in order to purchase and build Liberty Middle School.
Oh, and it became a commercial.
Yes, so it was. They have like nonprofits in the school.
We go
right
swimming
now.
there for the cruisers. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So that used to be our middle school. We
Okay.
have four middle schools in Plymouth and one in Canton, which was Discovery. So as we were doing this visioning, saying, and our growth was in Canton, we needed to build there. So we were able to. Central was over 100 years old. They didn't have centralized air conditioning. And so that was really that goal of that 2014 bond, is to get Liberty built. So a lot of that investment in the high schools you'll see in terms of the facilities. We often hear, we're not taking care of the facilities that we have, why are we buying new? And I say it's not an either or, it's an and both. We absolutely have to have an investment in our current facilities and at the same time grow, recognizing we do have 3 comprehensive high schools at the park. And I will say, as I hear that narrative, we don't disagree with the status of our facilities now. And it's a reminder of our community. We had 2 bonds that failed in the past. And so we only get our funding through our state funds. We don't have a sinking fund in our district. And so the only way that we are able to invest is through bonds. And so it really is encouraging to me as people, that idea like, hey, sometimes we feel like the stepchild. We want our facilities to match the incredible programming and opportunities that we have for our students. So that is a work in progress, and we'll continue to make sure that we keep a laser-like focused on that. Coming up next, I think we have East and West Middle Schools. Pioneer is in process. Isbister just is finishing up this year. Next on the horizon, we have Farrand Elementary, Gallimore, I think Hoban are in the next group of elementary schools that are coming up, so you'll see some of those projects coming before the board. But continues to be exciting times. I will say the stressful part of that is that price escalation since COVID. So when we start off with $275 million, it's still not enough to do all of the projects. But we've had to continue to reprioritize and adjust the scope, because what we don't want to do is do everything in the beginning and get to the schools that are at the end of the bond and we're not able to fulfill what we're needing. So looking at enrollment, do we need extra classrooms, for example, to be built on certain, so what are our priorities, what are our needs, and we'll continue to look from that lens. That kind of leads me to a budget conversation. I think this is a good place just to talk about where we are this year. We have been so fortunate, I'm going to say, from 2 ways. Really historical investments in our public education from our legislation for the last few years in terms of our per pupil foundation. We were receiving the lowest per pupil foundation, and we really have seen some great investments that kind of equalize the playing field for districts across the state, and we're so thankful. Due to COVID, we've also had so much federal money that has come into our district. Utilizing for unfinished learning, we're able to bring new programs that were just specific for that time period, and we knew at the end that money runs out June 30th of this year, and so we knew going into it, what can we do looking at our data, what can we support, but that money would have to go away. We're always trying to be great fiscal stewards of taxpayers' money, so when we were able to really secure or position some cushion within our general fund to offset some of these expenses that were allowable through federal funds, we did that. We ended this year with over a 20% fund balance. Always keeping your eye, though, going forward, and the notion of what happens when that money is no longer here. So we do need to look at beginning that process that's over $10 million that we'll no longer have, and how do we make sure that we're continuing to align our budget, our finances with the greatest needs of the district, and beginning that idea of reduction in some of the positions. You know, when we look at our budget, it's over 80% is staff. So as we're going into
Can I ask
budget,
you a question?
yes.
Is there a fundraising opportunity there?
So fundraising is always a great opportunity, I would say, at the school level, but when you look to the district's budget and what we have to sustain for programming, we can't, when you kind of look at fundraising, that's supplemental, but not for a general fund.
But if it is an annual event where that gap is bridged, does that help?
Always would help, I would say that for sure. So not only do we talk about reductions, but we look at how can we generate revenue. And so those are conversations that we need to continue across the community. So many supports we have in place from our community partnerships that Mr. Ruggiero has been very helpful in bringing in. Bosch, for example, I think over $80,000 to support our STEM programs. So absolutely, that kind of revenue is important, and we need to make sure, though, when we're planning our programs, that we can sustain some things through the general fund. We're looking out over, when we look at those $10 million of investments that we've had in federal funds, we want to look out over time, how can we begin to reduce? So I don't want to be in a situation where we're saying year one, we're reducing $10 million from the budget, and that's such a strong impact on kids. So we kind of thought this year, let's try to begin shaving about $2 million first, $4 million next year, $4 million next year. So that we still, just kind of from our board perspective, we have a policy where we need 10% as a fund balance. Best practice, it has 15% for a rainy day. And as I said, we're currently sitting at about 20%. So it gives us time to really be strategic. This year going into it, we wanted to ensure that we were minimizing layoffs. That was important for us right now. Doing some projections around enrollment for next year, and how we can begin to decrease some of the positions over time furthest away from the classroom. So those are kind of the lenses that we look through this budget season. With that $2 million, we're trying to realize most of the reductions through central office, and then kind of have a plan next year as we're looking for what else needs to be adjusted, what needs to be a part of the budget, where we're getting the return on investment in terms of the things that we're investing in. So we'll look, I'll even say for Mr. Ruggiero, and we're very thankful for him. His position was a new position to central office for partnerships to get that revenue, which has been very important. With the exit of Mr. Brandon, which we weren't expecting as the Executive Director of Communications, Mr. Ruggiero, who was actually in that position prior, I don't know if anyone knew that, when I joined the team in 2011 as the HR Director, he was the Executive Director of Communications at that time. Probably over how many years, Frank? 30 years in the field.
Since the early
Yeah. So the initial plan, he stepped in with the team to just say, hey, let's see how this works. And we've done an amazing job. So we made the decision to say, let's eliminate his position of Director of Partnership long term. We're not gonna, so he'll take on this role, and we'll have to continue to build on a process that we continue to go and generate these partnerships, but how can we do this work with one less FTE? So we have that kind of mindset in central office as well. We had additional maintenance positions that have come over time at the district level, and we had a person that left. We said, how can we rearrange some responsibilities and absorb those with current positions that stay?
More of a task.
Yes, it is. It's a task, but it's important again as we begin to model and reduce that we take these reductions first at central office, furthest away from the classroom. We're looking at grant funds and what could be absorbed within a grant so it protects the general fund. So getting feedback from the community budget survey, working with our building principals, working with staff to say what is the greatest need. That's really how we're moving forward in this budget year. So we'll come forward. We've been working at F&O. Final budget has to be approved by June, the end of June 30th. So a lot of things in play in terms of what state aid looks like, but we make our best estimate and just kind of beginning to make those reductions along the way. So I think it's important also to educate about those reductions and what was grant funded, what is in the general fund, but just know that we're constantly focused on making sure that we are aligning our resources to meet the needs of our students. So that is in process.
Can I ask a quick
Yes,
question about the
sure.
budget? So I noticed like the past couple of years we've done those really cool summer camps.
Yes.
Was that part of the COVID thing? 'Cause I'm like, registration's already open for that and
Yes.
it's not. So is that done now?
So
And
that we were able to finance those free
Right.
programs through our federal funds.
Okay, so
this
that's
is the
done.
final year.
Oh, you will
And
do
we
it.
needed to see, were we going to be able to accomplish this with what was left? That's why it was a little bit later getting out, but we will be able to accomplish some of those summer camps this
Okay.
summer free of charge, but that will be the last summer that we're able to do
Okay, so
that.
when will that stuff come up?
They
for
we
registration?
literally just talked this
Okay.
through CORE, so I think that information should be getting out shortly.
Okay.
The scope might not be as great in terms
Right.
of spending up the remaining amount of money, so we had we tried to generate teacher interest first to say
Right.
what are some of these ideas. We'll still have the traditional credit recovery courses as well, but this will be our probably last year to be able to do
Okay.
these free camps for
Okay.
students.
And then another quick question, I think it would have to do with the budget. So I noticed this year we had 500 school of choice openings versus the 250.
Yes.
So is that just because our enrollment's lower? Because I feel like the classrooms are so packed. I'm like, at least, and I know I'm not in all the buildings, but I'm
Yes.
like, where are these kids all gonna go?
Yes.
And then yes, I guess why did it go up from 250 to 500?
That is a great question. When we look at our seniors, so we are typically graduating a class of 1,500. And then we look at our kindergarten class that comes in, and it's typically between 1,000 or 1,100.
Okay.
So in general, we're looking at that deficit already. And so we have plans on how do you fill that. So we initially had 250 seats, and we were trying to keep those seats to elementary. Then we kind of moved slowly into middle school, and then at the high school level, we were opening seats for 9th and 10th grade. So as we look to that trajectory, we decided this year to try with 500 seats. Now, typically when you open seats, you will not get the full number of seats. We'll
Okay,
have
that's
that
what
many
I was
people
wondering.
apply. When we were at 250, the greatest number of students that actually attended was 138.
Okay.
So then we're saying, all right, if we need to try to get to that 300 number, let's open up 500 seats. So we open up 500 seats. We have 616 applications for those 500 seats. They did a lottery. We go through a process. We're placing the 500. People decline or not. Then we go to the next round of the lottery. This year, with the 500 seats that we're currently sitting in, 330, I believe 38 accepted. So it's that
Okay.
same time of thing. So we did kind of meet that goal of 300 by opening it up to 5. So again, we duplicated that for this
Okay.
year with that
It's
idea.
interesting that even though you have more applications, that it still ends up being less. I didn't realize
Really,
that.
the idea behind that, in schools of choice, you can't choose your school, you can only choose the district. So as we do placements, we try to do placements closest to where they live in the district, but it's not a guarantee. So if I am a family that lives in Canton, but outside of Plymouth Canton boundaries, and I've applied and I want to go to South Canton, but that's where we're blowing up in terms of enrollment and our schools are so large, we may offer a placement at Farron.
Yeah,
And that's just they're not going to take that. So that is, we try to do the best that we can, but we do, everyone doesn't end up accepting
Right.
much here.
So are there some schools where we don't fill all seats?
So we typically will look across. So for example, I'll say the numbers I just gave you, 616. If we advertise through schools of choice, any grade level, we have to at least fill one seat. We have the majority of our applicants as kindergarten students. So we say, yep, we're going to try to capture our kindergarten students early so they will always be a part of the program,
yeah.
the school. then we have to see where is their space, right? And so that's where you have your open seat. So if we have our classrooms already established, and at this classroom we have 17, then we may be able to bring more schools of choice students, not to go above the class size average, but you're trying to accept based on seats and space at the grade levels that have applied.
This is my corporate training asking, I apologize, but is the funding set up to go based on number of students that go?
Every student that comes to the district, you get a per pupil foundation, so they will receive the same foundation amount. And once you accept a student, they are Plymouth Canton students forever. You don't have to apply, and we get their foundation amount. So that's where I say really that's how we fund schools. It's based on the number of students that we have. Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is, once one child is accepted, all of their siblings are accepted as well. I mean, I think you have to apply.
You have to apply every year. It's called a sibling rule. So if you are already here and you have a sibling, you would get a priority. So even though we do a lottery, if a sibling is already a part of the school, then the law would say their siblings would come first before another family to keep families together.
Yeah. And keep those siblings in the same school as
That's
well.
right.
You wouldn't have one sibling in one. And yeah, I actually was school of choice originally with our first house. If you guys know, I mean, obviously I'm in real estate with Jackson Realty Partners, but Canton is so wonderful where you can live in Canton, but you may be district for a different school. You could be Wayne Westland, you could be Van Buren or Belleville, yes, or Plymouth Canton. Those are the three schools. Even though you live in Canton, our house actually, we stayed on one side of the street, we were Wayne Westland, and the other side was Plymouth Canton. So we saw the bus, and even going to the Wayne Westland school, we went further. We were at Walker Winter, and so yes, I was like, but I have a school 5 minutes from me. I have Bentley, I have Dotson, I have.
Do you pay
So
Canton taxes?
do you?
No, but you're district's other school.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to lose that funding, obviously, if you're a district for that school. But it is just kind of interesting how that works. And a lot of people, when you live in Canton, you want to go to Plymouth Canton schools. So I learned about school of choice, that although we're in Canton, you're able to through this school of choice application. So I'm so thankful for it. That's how we got here. I mean, now our second house is in Canton, and we're district for P-CCS, but you may not be. So thank God we have this, though, so you can go to your school that's near your home, or just to get into this wonderful school district.
I heard you address in terms of the class size, and so that's something we continue to hear. Through COVID, we had the virtual academy. We had over 800 students in the virtual academy, and that reduced once we were in person. But again, not wanting to lay off the teachers that we had. That initial year, we were able to keep staff and kind of reduce class sizes, but you could literally still, it depends on where the teachers are placed. So you could have a second grade class at this school where you only have 22 students, and then at this school we were in the full 26. And so we returned really to our board established class sizes, and so that's still how we're moving going forward. We were doing combination classes in the past. We allowed ourselves to, for a few years, not look at combinations unless it meant that if we truly could keep every student in their home school versus having to go through an overflow situation. In some cases, you might see a few overflow scenarios. So we're still looking through that lens, using the board established class sizes, trying to minimize combination classes where possible, and trying to utilize the space that we have within the classrooms. But indeed, when you look, that's a big conversation about class size. When you say from research, a reduced class size, what is actually impactful for learning, it would say between 18 to 20 students. So even reduce it from 26 to 25, it's not going to. And it's about 1.5 million to 2 million to reduce by one student across the board K-12. So those are discussions that you have to say, again, how do you best align resources with needs, and how do we put those supports in place. So big time of the year, but again, that's work that it continues, and we'll continue to educate the community on what's going on in the WISE. You mentioned this magazine. I just want to share it because I do think that this is also a result of some conversations. I look at Katie all the time. She is also a representative of a citizen on our SPA committee, and always talking about, as a parent, what we don't do well enough in our district. We have all of these opportunities, but we don't even know. So if I'm here as an elementary parent, I don't know what is available. So that is really, like, it was in our ear. So we talked about communication. How can we get these the positive news won, and opportunities out to all. We are a large district. So we started doing these press releases every week because our students are doing amazing things. We have amazing programs. We started this magazine, and that goes across our community. So it's not just our families that are in our community, but residents of our district as well. We still need to do a better job. So just getting ideas to say, how do we communicate all that is available here for our district? And so I just love these opportunities as well to just generate, how do we improve and communicate better what opportunities we have for students. So I just
have to second that, Dr. Merritt. Even though I'm involved, I love getting these because I get to learn about things that I don't necessarily experience firsthand. So kudos, and the fact that it goes to the entire community. So even community members who are choosing other institutions or districts, they start to see some of the amazing things we're doing, and they second guess their decision to go outside the district, if you will. So definitely want to second that. I do have a quick question in regards to school of choice for high school.
Yes.
So I know you said that last year, was it, that we started to accept freshmen and
might have been a few years back. Yeah, we started with like 10, then we went. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's been a few years now. Yes.
First question is there a plan to continue? And second question, do we have any data as to how well those children are performing in the district, entering in so late, if you will?
Yes, we do look at the data. We look at attendance, we look at behavior, and we look at academic data. And the students, for the most, are on par with our resident students. So we look at that in terms of, even when we started the Schools of Choice program, we started with only kindergarten seats at 50. That was probably back in 2010, with the idea that if we have students from their very first experience, then they will always have had the experience with the curriculum. And then we continue to watch the data. We grew through elementary, then added middle school. And each year we're seeing the same thing in terms of their attendance. Families have to provide their own transportation, and families are motivated to bring their students. So the attendance wasn't an issue, providing students with supports, allowing them to remain involved in extracurricular activities, and the results and the outcomes have been very similar. When we looked at the high school, for students, it's the idea that we wouldn't bring seniors because that's their year to graduate, and really for 11th grade as well, that's just a hard transition. So we started first with 9th grade, and we only did the experience with the academies. That was our idea at first. And then again, looking at the data and the success of the students, the commitment, investment of families to the student success, we expanded to 9th and 10th grade. Now I will also say, because when we're looking at those numbers as we have declining enrollment, we're still looking at 9th, 10th, and 11th and 12th grade classes that are 1,200, 1,300, 1,400. So we limit again, trying to bring larger amounts of schools of choice at the lower grade levels so that they'll matriculate through the system. So at times we might only offer 20 9th grade classes, 20 10th grade seats.
The Starkweather Academy is meant to accommodate kids with additional needs.
It's just not their traditional high school setting. It's smaller. Yeah.
Could there be opportunity for 11th, 10th, or the higher grades there to be school of choice?
Well, Starkweather is actually already a schools of choice because it is an alternative program, but it's a different window.
I see.
Yes, so you could throughout, it's kind of like a rolling, because every school district doesn't have an alternative program.
Okay.
So they have the opportunity to apply through a different type of a choice
Thank
to
you.
attend.
Alternative program.
Yes.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I definitely always say get in where you fit in as far as with school of choice if you're able to. I am thankful that just personally my son, he came in, we started Plymouth Community Schools at Halsing for kindergarten, then we bought our house, and then we got moved to Wayne Westland Schools for first grade. Then I found out school of choice, so Marcel came back in second grade. And I can tell you just that 1 year difference, I didn't think there was a difference in curriculum and schools, just school, especially at such a young age. But no, there was a big difference. He was substantially behind just within that 1 year of first grade going outside of the district and coming back. So it did affected us. And that's why I started PTOs and being in the schools, because my son needed help. That's where it originated. But yeah, there is a difference for sure.
I have another question, but I don't know if it's part of your agenda. Would you My question is about GSRB program. So the district is now starting to facilitate the GSRB program. Is
Yeah,
that
we have been for years, but we're growing. So that works with the county. That's Great Start Readiness Program for kindergarten. And there's an eligibility requirement. So across the county, we work with our intermediate school district, and then they say we have this amount of students that are eligible. Are you interested in opening up another classroom if you have the space? And so if we have the space, we always say yes, of course. So that's what you're seeing is an expansion because there's more students across the county in our resident area that qualify for GSRP. And so if we're able to, then we say yes to opening additional
Okay,
classrooms.
and that's under your purview as well?
Yes, yes.
And can you say what GSRP is? for
Great
those who may
Start
not know?
Readiness Program. So that's your kindergarten program.
Universal preschool.
Yes, preschool,
Thank you.
yes. BD and 2.
Sorry, Katie.
Monica, before I make this comment, I want to say I'm not anti-school choice. However, 338 students is a lot of students in terms of like school choice options. And I mean that if, as we continue this, we're looking at almost a whole entire elementary schools full of school of choice when you look at like the numbers district-wide, right? I mean, an average elementary school, I think maybe Smith has around 500 students or so, right? So we're almost getting to a whole elementary school content worth of students that are school choice. So the concern I have with this logic of we're gonna fix some of the budget issues we have by just adding more school of choice kids is that at some point we have infrastructure issues, right? We have, you know, teacher recruitment is really hard. Overall enrollment in public education is down significantly and is only going to further decline.
Yes.
So I guess I feel like when I hear you talking about this, I get a little apprehensive and a little concerned that we're sort of plugging a hole in a boat that's is just continually gonna take in water and we're not resolving some of the fundamental budget issues maybe that we have as a district possibly, especially when you talk about numbers of like my son, my oldest is in 5th grade. He, I think at this point is the smallest class in the district. And so when I think about like the way you're talking about the logic of like backfilling these students, I mean, there's a whole chunk because of COVID that you're gonna have a huge backfilling of. So I guess that's my concern that I'm seeing. The question that I have is longer term, like are there discussions about, you know, closing down an elementary building, reducing teacher staff as well? Like you know, we have a lot of teachers are retiring. Like, are those conversations happening more long term in terms of like actually talking about reducing the overall size and operating budget of the district to more align with the actual enrollment of the district? Is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a great question and it's a great perspective, and I'll share really the thinking behind that. So it's both. When you look at your staffing, we every year right size the staffing to meet the number of students that we have. This year we have 16,200 is what we budgeted for. So our staffing was set for 16,200. Next year in the budget, we're budgeting for 16,100. So automatically you'll have less teachers based on the number of students that we're projecting for. With schools of choice, we are filling seats that are open. So if I currently have a teacher and there's 20 students in that classroom, I still have to have that teacher because those are resident students. So if I can bring in 4 schools of choice students to that classroom, by not having the students, I'm not going to reduce that classroom, right? So it's not like adding 2, right? But it has that ability to bring the funding that is associated with it. If you're at a situation where you're saying, for schools of choice, we're bringing in new teachers, then that would really, to your point, that would negate that cost. Now, where you might bring in extra FTE is at the middle school level, because that is a formula base. So it's, you do a formula in order to get the number of sections. But when you're looking at elementary, we're typically looking to fill. So even when you look at that number of 338 across the district, those open seats aren't all a classroom, for example. Smith being one of our smaller schools, oftentimes we're not even able to put schools of choice students there. So we put the students where classrooms will exist regardless. So that's kind of really that idea around there. It won't fix a budget, it sustains classrooms that already exist with the students that are there. And then oftentimes, as you hear, families will move into the district which is we track that data as well, so that then they're having the access to transportation and things that would make life easier, but that is also a draw to come in to the school. At the same time that we're doing that, we are right sizing each year to say, and the idea currently is through attrition, people are retiring, people are returning from leave, so we're able to fill these positions, but they're less FTE each year. Now during COVID, that's the 1 year that I said, and instead of right sizing at that year, we said 1 year for virtual academy, we did two things actually. We will absorb the virtual academy teachers into the regular in-person classrooms, which allowed us to have smaller class sizes. And we also made the decision from a program investment to start the innovation special. So instead of laying off those 20 teachers or 14 for innovation, we said, let's start this program, because for our students at the same time, you're looking at how do you bring in revenue so it's not just cuts, and what could attract the 2,200 resident students that aren't currently attending school in P-CCS. And how are we preparing our students for the future, for jobs that don't exist? We're not going to wait until high school. We have the ability right now to leverage our staff and do that at the elementary level. And that's been amazing for our students. So those are all kind of the decisions that go into place. Make sure that that your staff is appropriate for the students that you have, that you're still investing in programs that are essential to bringing more students in the building, that you are filling, when possible, for us, for the Schools of Choice program, seats that already exist, not bringing in new for that. So it's a big puzzle. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question going back to the data for the School of Choice, and based on Antoinette's comment of leaving, going to Wesleyan, coming back, where she noticed a significant like academic gap. And then your comment how like Smith is a school that doesn't typically get School of Choice. So my question is, these schools that are on the fringe of South Canton, when we look at their like data, not that like test scores are everything by any means, but we do see those schools are on the lower, I feel like to say it, like lower achieving academically as compared to a Smith or Isvist or Bird, who then by their location are not on those borders that would be getting more of the School of Choice if we're going by location. Do you not see a strain on the resources that we're able to give those schools on the borders who are now accepting students who we're hearing are getting a lesser education? Like, how do we accommodate that strain that a Field, a Halsey, Erickson, Farrand are getting, because they are getting students who we're hearing are getting a lesser education as they come in School of Choice?
So I do want to say we always have to be careful not to generalize, because our students that are resident students are also experiencing challenges, and oftentimes even within the curriculum that they've been a part of since kindergarten are not performing as well academically as some of our students that have come in through Schools of Choice. So the idea, kind of when you hear the earlier conversation about our goal is to provide students with what they need, which might be very much individualized, and that's always a work in progress. So there's a full range of experiences. When I talked about bringing kids in, more kids earlier, so the longer that they're within our program, our curriculum, our staff, that's going to help minimize that. But again, when we look at the data, there is not that difference between our resident students and our Schools of Choice students, just as you may have some Schools of Choice students who might have, to catch up, we have many of our resident students that are the same. You'll hear the same thing about, it's a perception like, oh, because you have so many Schools of Choice students, are you seeing more elevated behaviors? We are seeing elevated behaviors across everywhere, and that's born and raised right here in our district.
But
and so
I'm
it's
saying,
again,
like the sheer number, like if you take it and now you're adding, like class sizes at Field are much higher than class sizes at Bird. And so, like I'm saying, like isn't that like a strain when you're adding like more students of higher needs, even if our resident students are also higher need in that building, that adding more students of even the equal like need, isn't that putting a strain on the teachers and the ability to meet the needs of the existing resident students?
so yeah, I hear what you're saying. In terms
you're
of,
just adding
again, where I say
Yeah.
generalized, we're not saying every student that is coming from Schools of Choice is a student with greater needs. And so I think it's an education, it's a perception of, when we're saying students, our students, schools of choice, students come with their various needs. So that's the work of schools to educate students. When we look at particular schools, it really is about, again, what is the capacity within that classroom that already exists, as well as we also have to look at what are the builds. Like if there's new housing coming, even though it might not be this year, we might make that decision not to place schools of choice students there because we know that here in Plymouth we're having this housing development. In a few years, we're going to have more students. So it's still a spread, and when you look across 25 buildings, 330 students, you might have 5 in this building, and it's 1 per grade level. That's still going to be, it might take that class from 22 to 23. It might be at the high school where it's going to be negligible when you have a total of 50 schools of choice students that you're bringing in. And so there are just a lot of things in play, but I do think it's very important to know that it is not every student that's coming through schools of choice is coming at a deficit.
Yeah,
and it's
certainly not, but I'm saying even if that student came in with like way beyond, that's still like an extra like student.
So I just
in a
want to
classroom
add,
of a class that's
I wish Dr. Quasno, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I wish Dr. Quasno was here. But that's the elementary school's effort, because I see them do that, right? When we have school of choice kids in our classroom, the volunteers ramp up in the classroom. So the school asks for help from its community to supplement that additional help. So the teacher's not taking the burden alone, it's just the support system kind of steps in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but not every school may have that support system.
No,
you're right.
If, again, it's not a, hey, we're going to make a decision one time to get into schools of choice and that we don't look. That's a constant review. And when you look at, and that may be a future meeting to say, because we actually have we actually have data around many schools of choice students that are performing better than our resident students.
Oh yeah,
And yes.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not like I'm just waiting on like Antoine's comment of like that it was like definitely different, and then just looking at like the number of kids. I mean, as a teacher, I mean like like less kids in the class. Like even if it was like a great like smaller like numbers is definitely like can be much like better. So like my thought was just like in the buildings that we know already have like high like needs, that like how do we matter like adding like more students to that like class.
I mean,
even if it was, I don't know.
I hear what you're saying, and I think what Dr. Mary is saying, again, mine was a specific situation, but you also got me as well. You get the parents and you get that comment and how, like Shuma was saying, that help the building as a whole and not just their student, but everyone within it. And I also like what Dr. Mary said, that, again, we have students that are school of choice friends personally. They're in the TAG program. They've excelled. The families have come in and they've uplifted the school as well. So it goes both ways. And as well, as she was saying, if there's only 330 seats across 26 schools, I mean, it's not that significant as you may think.
I do want to add this too. I don't know how much it'll help the conversation, but I'll add this because in our first home, our elementary school was Miller Elementary. Our second home, our elementary school is Workman. And when I think about, some of the disparities that exist with our students, sometimes it is the resources that exist in the home itself. So you may have even just, again, parent groups and parents that I, communicated with and have friendships with at Miller, not to say, I'm not generalizing, but there were less in-house resources than I experienced with parental groups at Workman. Everyone's doing additional learning. Not everyone. Many parents are taking advantage of additional educational opportunities, tutors, Kumon, all of these things that, of course, impact the child's performance in school, whereas I felt my previous experience, it was not as much, if you will. So I think that, again, I don't know how much this experience helps the conversation, but sometimes there are things that are happening in the home that show up in the way that that shows up in the data of the school, if that makes sense. Does that?
Yeah.
One final thing I would say, I'll put the dollar amount to it to also say why it's not just about the dollar amount. If we just use the number of this year, 338 students at approximately 9.6 million. I mean 9.6, what am I trying to say? $9,600 per student. So that's approximately $3 million. Not adding teachers, we would still have the same budget for our staffing, less $3.2 million. So then we'd have to say, because we can't cut the staff because we still have the students within the classroom. When you talk about that structural deficit, that legacy cost, where are we going to reduce $3 million? And then that's when you have to begin to increase your class size, because you're going to say, okay, well, we may need to cut a teacher at this class, and students could go from Byrd to Smith, and we would share our own resident students for one teacher, because we have 15 students here, we have 10 students there. They both need a teacher, but we could put them together for a class of 25, or we do like the combination classes. So it impacts the program. So those are things that you think about. If we have to have this staff and we can supplement with that $3.2 million, for example, then it allows us to sustain the program for students. Now, if we're ever at a point where, and that in itself, again, when you think about class size, that actually could go the other way, where your class sizes could increase because you're trying to reduce that structural deficit. Those are questions. We're in a limited schools of choice program as well. So there's some schools that will do rolling because, you know, and they'll add additional teachers and all of that to keep that going. Right now, it truly is it's a component of the decisions that we've made in order to sustain program. The final question I think I heard was around, are we at a place of reducing or closing a school? And that is a process that we look at every 2 years, our boundaries, to say, again, what's being built? Are there resident students here? Can we have enough to close a school? And so we're not, the question looks to say, do we even need a boundary study? Is one school too full and another is not full enough? So we're at a place right now where we're able to sustain what we have, but we're definitely far away from closing a school. So we had Fiegel, Allen, those were closed over time, because at one point we were 19,000 students. So currently with that, where we stand, we're not at a place of closing schools, we're not at a place of reducing staff without increasing those class sizes and potentially going back to more combination classes or having overflow situations. And so it's a balancing game. It's how do you provide the best education for students programs when you have to make sure that you have an eye on that structural deficit, and at the same time wanting to provide what our kids need. So
I just have a question. So kindergarten, you know, they went to full day support staff. Will that continue for next year?
So on this budget, that is not a cut,
Okay.
but every single year you have to look at through a lens of that's not a guarantee on any position, right? And so we have to do that work to say, what is the return on the investment? We were half-time kindergarten paras prior to.
Right.
We were, when we talk about the elevated behaviors and the need for additional support, then the ask or the data showed that we needed to go to full-time kindergarten paras. Right. When we have this transformation, that's when the building principals working with staff bring forth their greatest needs. On this particular year, that wasn't a need to say, let's reduce there. Okay. So every year you have to look at. It could be things that are reduced one year, and then our data says we need to explore bringing this type of support back. And if we're also trying to reduce, then we have to say, well, what do we no longer do in order to make sure that we fund that? So that's a year conversation. But coming up on this year's budget, when I was saying the goal was to try to begin with a $2 million reduction, right. Our reductions are as far away from that classroom, and that wasn't one of the things that bubbled up. Because of the supports, we have elementary success specialists at the elementary school, and we were looking at that. Now that every elementary school has a, like the assistant principals, the student support coordinator, right. Then we look to say, are those positions ones that we can now reduce? But the buildings say we still have some needs across. So we look at how do we retool those? Can we pay for those out of a grant fund? So those are able to be paid for out of 31A in the year to come. So we'll have them for one more year, but they're out of the general fund. So that's going to be a savings of $800,000. So through those kind of cuts, we've realized those will still be services for the schools because the people will still be there. They won't be laid off. They're just going to be paid for differently. So that conversation this year, as we're going now next year, if we're saying, starting at the beginning of the year, we want to look to reduce structurally $4 million. What is the best way that we can achieve that without impacting services for students? What are our greatest needs? Is it a kindergarten para? Is it this type of support? So that has to be a yearly discussion.
So that 31A, that for the success specialist, so does that mean only Title I schools or even
No,
the
so
schools that-
31A is a different formula in terms of students who can receive the support or the eligibility. So you might have economically disadvantaged. You have different areas. It could be the number of classes that students are passing or not passing. So it would have to retool it a little bit differently when it's paid for the general fund. That position could support all needs. If it's paid for out of Title I funds, it could only be students that qualify for Title I. When you look at 31A, it's called at risk. So students that are not, they're at risk of not being successful would be students that could benefit
So
from that
does a
support.
building have to have a certain percentage to still maintain
No,
that?
so it's, as a district, we receive at-risk funding, we receive categorical funding based on the needs that are there across the district, right? And so we're able to utilize, so Title I funds, for example, you would not be able to utilize, that's gonna be like a caseload of students that could qualify. When you look at 31A funds, programs, there's eligibility, so that what that person does may look different, but it's still able to be sustained across.
And with the para situation, so the $2 like increase for the year, do we know if that's extended yet, or are they taking that back?
So that is subject, I'll say it this way, because negotiate outside of the table. But the para contract is open, so they're going to be negotiating. I will say from a district's perspective, that is a priority going to the table, is to ensure that we are compensating our staff fairly. And so each time a contract is open, you look across the county, the comparables, and we have been underpaying paras for years, like just even getting them. We have a lot of paras. That's another, the drawback of being such a large district, we have over 330 paras. But when you look at our salary structure compared to other districts, and then you say, okay, we have so many openings and why? And so you have to incrementally get there, but that's the conversation that is at the table to make sure that we are compensating, because it's not just about recruiting, it's about retaining the staff that we have. That's where our success is, the people that are working with our students.
I just have one more.
Yes.
So I have a middle schooler, and he's been struggling since COVID. He now has a 504. He got it the end of 5th grade into middle school. So he had the opportunity to do the tutoring that was through the district. So we took him to do that or whatever. My question is, what are we going to do for those students after this funding runs out?
Yes.
So my concern is him. It's been a struggle.
Yeah.
And I feel like every year he loses a little bit every single year. And I just want him to get back to that point where he can catch up.
Yeah.
So he will be going into high school, and it makes me very worried about, a Spanish class. It's hard for him to do English right now.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna require him to do Spanish. So my question is, like, how do we get him to that point to where he can be like everyone else, where he's not struggling anymore? So I feel like every single year he goes a little bit further and further behind. We get him to that point, and he goes right back. I mean, we get him to that point, and then he never catches up. So that's what my question is.
Yeah. So I definitely would encourage working at the building level. So when you look at some of these investments for unfinished learning as a result of COVID, they've been like blanket investments. We're going to get, these number of TOSAs. We're going to get, when we're no longer having that funding, so we're saying that was a temporary position, but we still have needs from students, as you expressed, that are individualized. And I think even, it was great to have the federal funding, but I don't think even, anyone knew the impact of that pandemic on students for years to come. It wasn't going to say, hey, 3 years and it's done, right?
COVID. Yeah, he was struggling a little bit before COVID. So when COVID happened, it put him under.
Yes. So I still would say the supports that are needed, even when we don't have these additional positions, working within the building to say what is it that your individual student needs and how can we make sure that those supports are available.
because then I have a high schooler where he excels, and then I have a third grader where he excels.
Yes.
But this is my middle. I felt like COVID hit him the hardest.
Yeah.
He was in third grade when that reading law went into place. He never had to go through that, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
He's been.
Yeah, it's kind of the idea, again, that it's not a one-size-fits-all, and we won't have supports across, like everybody gets this type of position, but each year looking at what are the needs of the students, and how do you align those financial supports to meet those needs.
Yeah, because now I noticed like this year, his behavioral is starting, because he's not where everybody else is at, so here comes the behavior. You know, and then I feel like nobody, when I do talk to people, you know, like the staff members at the middle school that he's at, I feel like that's all they're focusing on is his behavior now. But I feel like he's struggling. He's been struggling. We need to figure that out. That's, you know.
So I definitely, in terms of individual, as I said, sharing with, like, working with your teachers and then going to building principals, if you need an additional layer of support at middle school level, I would say engage it with Mr. Ruella, but just really getting the team around, like, what are the needs and what is the best in terms of that plan to support your students.
And one quick, you had mentioned the innovation thing,
Yes.
and I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer,
No.
but like, when my kids found out that was coming, they were like so excited about it. However, and I've heard this from other people too, and like other students, it's like my daughter's least favorite one, because she's like, they hardly have, the way they say it's turned into like an hour of SEL, or I shouldn't say a full hour, whatever the time is, it's like mostly SEL, then 10 minutes to work on a project. And she's like, I wish we had more time to do like whatever the activity is. And I've heard that from other people too, and it's just like, I'm like, oh, that's not what we all thought it would be. I thought it was all going to be, like you said, it was supposed to be STEM focused, and they were thrilled. They were so excited, right? And then it's like, like I said, it's like her least favorite. My son's in middle school now, but even in 5th grade, he was like, oh, like, you know, like, and so just throwing that out there, like, I don't know if it's like that at all schools, but that might be something to be worth looking at, because they do love the actual STEM activities.
Yes.
It's just, they hardly get to do that.
Yeah, so it is definitely a curriculum that's been shared. If it's not how it's being implemented, I would always encourage any parent getting that feedback from your student, working directly with the building principal. If it's something that is occurring in a particular school, I think it would be very, very important. That leads me to just announce, though, we got a parent survey coming up again. I think it's open up. It's open up till May 8th. Those are opportunities to get some of that feedback in there as well. Because again, each program, you have to look at each year, and if it's not working the way that we intended, if it's something at a particular building that can be addressed versus is the program itself is not working, and so those are data points.
And I would like to say too, again, that's in like parents, we donated lots of things for the innovation class to make it more, I guess, exciting. And I think it also depends on the teacher and how they segment their time, I guess, for that period, because I know Jonathan loves that class, the innovation. He loves it every
But
week.
then that's another thing, that it's not equitable. Like, your school asked her, then.
Well, the teacher asked.
Yeah, but like, that's where then.
But again, I'll go back from not just like if you're hearing supplement, but for what the curriculum was developed, that should be consistent across all schools. And so how that's being implemented, if that's not being implemented with fidelity, then that's something that would need to be addressed and known and looked into.
And with the teacher, I would say too, or the building principal.
I'll probably say building principal in that particular piece.
I also, well, picking off of Amory, because our kids are at Gallimore, I think it also may highlight another point that we have like Gallimore's like the TAG program, but then the curriculum that is given to the teachers, aside from the math being like a grade ahead, is the same curriculum materials and content that you give to all of the other elementaries. So we're giving, like, maybe the TAG class for innovation, like, might need something different to meet the needs than, like, the other, like, programs. But that not only innovation, but it's, like, across for, like, the TAG students, that they're not getting, like, the teachers are given the same, like, stuff, even though you, like, test it and pull them into a different building because they're, like, learning, or their needs are different, but then the teachers are given the same thing. So like maybe especially something like innovation, like might require some tweaking to like meet the needs of the students in that program.
So the innovation, that's a great point. A lot of times when you're looking at curriculum, they're giving ways to accelerate. That's where differentiation comes in. The curriculum for innovation itself is constant. So our normal review would be a 6-year cycle. That really was like a 5-week to say, hey, let's get this class going, right? So the first year was like across the K-5, right? Everybody was doing the same thing at their level. And then the next year it evolved and it's growing. So that's something that, you know, continuous feedback to say, what does that look like and how do you differentiate for the students that are in front of you?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
It's not related to what we were talking about, but I think you talked about school buildings and the management of the facilities, and I'm not sure if the parent survey would be an opportunity for this, but there's a parent that noticed I was on the P-CCS parent council and asked me this question, and it was about the care of one of the high schools, like as far as the locker room goes and the pool, as far as cleanliness, and I wasn't sure where to send him, or you know what I mean, how to help him.
Yes.
So that's why I thought I would ask you. It might be a short answer, a department that he has to go to, or the parent survey, or I don't know.
No, I would say always all of the above. The first
Okay.
is going to building principal.
Okay.
And if there is not, if there, in additional, our facilities, which is under our facilities and operations department. But I would always start with the building principal. So the structure is one that at the building level, our plant engineers should be able to address certain things, but some things are greater than that. It's a district level need, and so they're not being attended to.
Okay.
And so we want to start there, and if we don't see results, because they should have like work orders in, if they handle it on the building level. If not, then the district level maintenance team might be assigned, or it's a third party who comes to assign. It might be a greater issue that's like a bond related. But other things, even when you look at the scope of the bond, just even having basic paint and those things would make such a difference. And so those are things that we're looking at now. What can we bifurcate out? Like if there's a really, really big issue with bathrooms, we hear constantly at the park. And over time, this is something that this is not coming up on the bond until the next 5 years. Is there something that we can work on to do certain projects to make sure that we correct them along the way? So I said that the person that would go to, I think, would be building principal first. At the same time, voices known through surveys are always important. And also another line would be our facilities team.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right, for sake of time, we must stop. I know we could go all day with Dr. Merritt. There's so many wonderful things that we want to discuss and talk about, but we will have to save that for next meeting. If we could thank you, Dr. Merritt. Thank you guys all for your questions. I mean, they're all very important. But we want to be cautious of time. I do want to acknowledge before he leaves, because I know we have to bring up our SJ5K representative, but we do have Matthew Shepard. I know he's unfortunately not going to be able to speak today. I am absolutely going to have him back. I know he's like getting ready to go, but he is my son's counselor at Salem High School, and he's amazing. We speak, I think, every week, literally. He's on speed dial on my phone. And he's just been so instrumental in not only helping with my son with his classes and things, but just resources at Salem that are there, and course selections, and even they've been testing these last few weeks. I know you have to go, and I know you won't present, but if you could just say your name at least, or at least just say hi to everyone, because he was here and he had different things happening even last night and throughout the night, and he still made the time to be here with us today. And I so thank you for your support and time, and I'm so sorry we're not able to get to you today, but we're just going to have a meeting next month so you can come back.
Oh yeah, no worries. So hi, I'm Matt Shepard. I'm one of the Salem counselors, and I was just going to share some things about our programs, things that like counselors can do for students. But I just want to say before I head out, I need to get back to my school today. But I just want to say, please, if any of your students are struggling in ways and you're not sure who to reach out to, counseling is often one of the places that you can go to. We kind of know I realize wow, this is a job that I kind of have to know everything about everything a little bit and support in a variety of ways. And so I don't know, please come encourage your student to visit the counseling office at whatever level, whether it's elementary, middle, or high. I guess I don't want to I know there's another presentation coming up, but just counseling is ready to support, we're not just academics, we're not just scheduling, we do so many other things that whenever I can come back next year, this next month, whatever it is, I'll be back and we can talk.
Thank you so much, Matt. I mean, can we please do it? He is honestly amazing. I know we have many counselors, but Matt Shepard, he is, I would say, the best. I'm a little biased.
Marcel's great too, and I look forward to working with your daughter next.
Thank you. He's like two of my kids. Thank you so much. At this time, with the closing of our meeting, I would like to bring up SJ5K. We have a presentation. As you guys may know, the race is coming up. It's May 5th at 8 a.m. at the P-CCS Varsity Field. We have Beth Savlock. I hope I said it right. Usually this is a student-ran foundation. The students at the park, whether it's Plymouth, Canton, and Salem, they put this together. They put a whole video together of 6 sponsors who are going to take part in this SJ5K, the donations and things. But they're in school right now, so obviously they couldn't be here. But we thank you, Beth, again at such short notice for being here. And if you could quickly come in your own way.
Thank you. Yes, so you can see this is a 17-minute video. Clearly we don't have time for this today. If you haven't watched it yet, I encourage you to take 17 minutes to see what's going on in your own community. I was asked, can the video be shorter? And I was like, yeah, there are 6 families. How do you tell 6 family stories in less than 18 minutes? I don't know how. So let me just start by saying I'm Beth Stavelak. I'm a retired teacher from Plymouth Canton. I taught at the park and at West Middle School. And I sat in this boardroom for 3 years in administration. My sister had that picture commissioned. It was when Monica was talking, sorry, Dr. Merritt was talking about last time about during our cuts. It was a time of desperation in Plymouth Canton, figuring out how do we provide for all kids. And we were closing schools, we were redistricting. It was ugly. And the conversations that happened in this room were hard. And so my sister had that picture commissioned to remind us that it's not about us. And I would now, 12 years later, change that to it's about all the children. I had a kid in tag, and here's what I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter in life. It doesn't. It doesn't get your kid any extra anything. I had a kid at general ed. They are both doing great because of this education they received in this district, but raising kids is hard, and there is no magic bullet. And if some people think it's got to be this or that or this program, my heart goes out to you. I know this. This is the best thing in this district. This is everything good in this district. The SJ5K is student created. It started by a student named Tommy Hallowitz. He is now a parent. Well, he's not. He is a parent.
You're making me feel old.
I know. Yep. He's got 2 children in this district. Not yet coming to. They'll be at Plymouth Canton in a couple of years. This is our 14th year, and what that means is for 14 years we've had students at the middle school and the high school who look in their community and see need, and they say, we can help. And if you've never come to the SJ5K, I cannot tell you, it is the one day you have to make room for in this community, because it will give you so much hope for the future. This year's theme is called Miles of Hope. The students created that theme. We normally choose 5 families, and this year we had a 6th family that came up 3 days after the selection. And we're like, we can't leave kids out. Nobody says no to kids, ever. We just don't say no to kids. So this year we have 6 families from our community that are in desperate need for community support and love. And then we raise money. And then we give all the money away to them. And then we start over again the next year with 0, and we do it again. I would like to tell you that this is the last year of the SJ5K because there won't be any need next year. But every year, what I tell the students every year is nobody wants to be on this poster. This poster means that life has conspired against you this year. It could be a cancer diagnosis. It could be an accident. It could be a spouse who you've lost. It is our worst nightmare. We don't want to be on this poster. But what we do is we come together one day a year, and I'm telling you, the students work on this all year long. It is May 5th, which I'm happy that you let me speak today because next month would have been too late. Yeah. The event would be over. As parents, how can you help? You can help us raise money. I have some sponsorship forms here. If you know of any local businesses that would be willing to sponsor, it's never too late. And if you're like, it's too late this year, think about it for next year. Take a sponsorship form. Here are the posters. They have some donation things on here, but they also have the website where you can go to watch the video
or you can go to register for the event. It costs $30 for adults and $25 for students. And I know people who've gone every single year for 14 years, and this is the one event they will come home from college for, whatever, because this is the thing that makes us, it gives us hope for the future. I remember the day after the school shut down for COVID, and we had a Zoom meeting with the students, and we're like, okay, I guess we're not doing it this year. And they're like, absolutely not. Figure out a way. We will figure out a way. So we did it virtually that year. All I'm telling you is I don't begrudge Dr. Merritt having to do the spring budget talks. They're just, it happens every spring. I always call it the feeding season when people try to eat each other's programs and make their own feel better. And
Hunger Games. We call it the Hunger Games.
Yeah, Hunger Games, feeding games, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to leave these posters. Anybody have any questions about the SJ5K? One of the things that I want you to know is that our strength in this community is our diversity. And one thing I absolutely always want is every single community member to know that this is available for them too. So please, next year, if you hear of somebody in your community and you're like, gosh, they could really use a lift, then you nominate them. That's how this works, is you know that this exists in the community. And then if you have students who are in the middle school or the high school and they're looking for a way to get involved, the SJ5K is a club. And this is what kids do. They just make the world a better place.
Yeah, we're so thankful for you and for the work that you're doing. I mean, I usually know at least 1 or 2 families every year. And
you're like, how can I know 1 or 2 families every year? How can that happen? Right?
Yeah, and it's devastating, especially this one with Jim Harkins and his family. We sat on the Canton Cup committee on DCFC. Our kids play soccer, and he was so wonderful. He and Amy, and yeah, he passed. And so it's so wonderful that these programs and these type of things that student-led are able to help the family in their time of need. And I like what you said, no one wants to ever be in this situation. But if you are, we as a community are here for you.
Okay, I'll leave these here for you. Frank, you can give them out to anybody and go to those.
We'll put them out.
Okay,
No,
not those meals.
we won't waste the paper.
Okay.
Yes.
And register. Please register. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. Just want to say thank you. You know, you see the signs all over the community, but just to like hear you speak about it out loud, it impacted me differently. So thank you for being here.
And definitely watch the video. I mean, we could even have it playing at the end as we're closing out. But yeah, definitely watch the video, and it goes into detail about each family. And then I cry every time.
I cry every time I watch it. Yeah, yeah. And we've raised over $1 million and given it all away. And I think we have, I don't know, I make numbers up, like over 45 families now to date that we do help. And
thank you.
It's life changing. So come join us.
Yes.
Looking for some
Just come, yep. Thank you, Beth. Thank you so much. At the conclusion of the meeting, I'd like to turn it to Frank to see if you have any district updates.
Well, we went through a lot here today.
I know.
I'm walking out.
Thank you so much, Beth.
I haven't seen you in forever.
I know, it's been a long time.
So we worked together 100 years ago here. Only thing I would tell you is about the mental health fair this weekend. Don't miss it. If you haven't been there, it's an awesome event. Lots of support for families. All I will tell you is that mental health is something that a lot of people are very private about. But what I've seen at this event is amazing to me because there's so many people that need help and they need help for their kids and they're worried. But I've actually seen people telling their problems to people, to our to the amazing support people that we have at this event, right at the event, because they don't know where to go. And so it's nice to have all these great agencies there to offer support and direct people where they can get help for themselves or for their family. So if you get a chance on Saturday to come out, there's lots of things for the kids to do. So while you're getting the information that you need, there's lots of things to occupy children while you're doing that.
And I would like that it's not like a stigma like mental health. Like it's not looked about in a negative light. It's actually celebrated. There's like even massages you can get, and it's not only information, but it's a good time. It's a fun time. And not only is it this Saturday, April 27th, it's at Plymouth Kellogg Park, which is downtown Plymouth. It starts at 10 a.m. and it goes until 2 p.m. And this is actually the 3rd annual Mental Health and Wellness Fair. So we started this 3 years ago, and I would like to make mention Kathy Grotis. She's actually over this event, and she is our P-CCS psychologist and mental health specialist at the Student and Family Engagement Services. She works very hard to put this on, and so again, just want to, I know for those who may be, on YouTube, it will be more than 100 mental health and wellness booths. There's creation stations, there'll be raffles, massage chairs, therapy dogs, family fun zone, free food, music, face painting. I mean, again, it's a really good time. So if you're able to, come out with your family to this mental health and wellness fair this Saturday.
The only other thing I'll mention, just so you're aware, and it is on the website now, but Monica mentioned, and you mentioned, the magazine that's come to the houses. If you haven't gotten it yet, it should be there next week. But on the website, the magazine is translated into, we support 80 different languages, but we picked the 2 most, the most used languages other than English in the community. So it is available in Spanish and Arabic on our website. So for those who,
that's awesome.
English is their second language.
Love that. Any questions for Frank? I love saying your last name, Rogerillo. All right, if that's it, the time is now to be recorded at 11:39 a.m. and we will adjourn this parent council meeting. Again, be on the lookout. I may have to make another meeting next month if my board is on board with it, and or the field trip, so we can have the speakers who maybe weren't able to speak, and even those who wanted to, who weren't on the program, can be on it for next time. Again, thank you so much for your time. I'm Antoinette Jackson, and I'm signing out.